to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, sponsored by Motivate Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show. Hi guys, and welcome to episode 33 of the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Belinda Risley, and today I am joined by personal trainer extraordinaire, Mr. Trey Shannon. Before I go on a little bit him, I'm going just to read a review that we've had for iTunes. Because I do batch these podcasts often a few weeks in advance, sometimes I forget about the reviews, although I actively promote you guys to write them. So I do apologize if you feel that you've written them and I haven't mentioned your name before. But this week goes to Ben, and he simply wrote, great interview with Marcus Dumsney. Well done, Ben. So thanks very much, Ben, for listening. I know you listen every week and I appreciate your feedback. So today's guest, guys, is Trey Shannon, as previously mentioned, from Podium Performance Fitness in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he works from drivers from karting to NASCAR to IMSA prototypes, all of them with the same goal to improve their fitness and performance behind the wheel. In addition to being a certified coach by the National Strength and Conditioning Association as a strength and conditioning specialist, he's also certified as a head and neck training specialist for the purpose of concussion prevention. Trey has also raced karts before, on and off for the past 18 years, and he's completed 7 different 24-hour races, also as a solo driver. So we go in great depth about him competing in the 24-hour race, obviously around the mental capacity that it must take for him to perform that, and of course, how does he go to the toilet during that time frame. So grab your pen and paper, guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to hearing your feedback on this episode. Thanks for joining me. Hey Trey, welcome to the show.
Hey Belinda, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited.
Well, as I was just mentioning to you off air, I get Instagram envy every day looking for wonderful Instagram stories. I obviously have the opportunity to have a studio and being able to train motorsport competitors face to face must be a real thrill for you.
It is, it really is, and it's something that I've been wanting to get into for a while, and I'm super happy to be able to do that now. It really does make going to work every day a lot easier.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your journey. You have raced motorsports before. How did you get involved into it? Have you been racing for a long time? And what kind of categories have you raced?
Yeah, so most of my racing's been in karting. Actually, all of my racing has been in karting. But when I was 4 years old, my dad took me to the Long Beach Grand Prix IndyCar race, and I was absolutely hooked. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. So I got into karting when I was about 16. So I really enjoyed racing, and I actually raced BMX bikes up until that point, just to be able to do something in racing, and then got into karting, and I've been karting off and on for the last 18 or so years. And then recently doing some of the 24-hour races and stuff like that, since getting into the karting weekly and stuff like that is very difficult. Obviously, time is a little bit stressed. And then also, as much as I'd love to be making millions of dollars doing this, I'm not quite there yet. So I have to limit the amount of track activity for myself for the time being.
Yeah, and so you're based in Charlotte in America. Is there many race tracks around there, like kart tracks around there, or what kind of tracks are based?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of everything around here. Charlotte obviously being kind of the center for most of the NASCAR activity. Most of the teams are based here. Obviously, the Charlotte Motor Speedway is right here in town, and they've got the big oval and then the road course inside. And then in terms of karting, we actually have GoPro Motorplex, which is right up the road, and that is a top of the line FIA rated facility, and it's really good. It's been nice to have that close by.
Sorry, I was just writing some notes there. Fantastic. So from your love of motorsport, is that how you got into be a personal trainer?
Yeah, a little bit. I actually used my love of motorsport to get into engineering first. And I thought from an early age, I thought the wings on Indy cars were super cool. So my whole big plan was to be an aerodynamicist in racing. And I was on track. I actually went to university to get an aerospace engineering degree. So I did that, and I worked as an engineer both inside and outside racing for about 10 years. But back in 2011, when I was training myself, I was training and working with a trainer to prepare for a 24-hour world record attempt in a kart. That was when I kind of fell in love with the whole process of training somebody to perform at their peak for a specific event or for a specific sport. And I thought I had two really big thoughts with that. One, I really enjoy this. I really love this. And the second was, I can do this. And after that record attempt, I looked into what kind of certifications I wanted to get and studied up for a couple of years, got my certifications, and kind of did that part-time for a little while and slowly migrated it to my full-time gig.
Yeah. And so let's just go back to your 24-hour gig. Tell us about it, because I believe you've done a few of them now, around about 6 or 7 of them. Is that right?
Yeah. So in various different forms, I've done 7 24-hour solo kart drives. Yeah. So it started with a record attempt with trying to complete the most number of kilometers or miles in a 24-hour period for a solo driver. So
which was?
I could manage that however I wanted. I can't remember what the kilometer number on it is, but I ended up doing 845 miles.
Uh-huh.
So I think that was somewhere around 1,400 kilometers, something like that, perhaps. I can't, it's been a while since I've had to do conversions.
That's all right.
It's been a minute, but so yeah, we did that, and in the outdoor event. So we did that at Newcastle Motorsports Park in Indiana, and then the next year, for whatever reason, I decided I wanted to try to do the same thing on an indoor circuit, which was much harder. And that one actually wasn't super successful. I still set a baseline, like I set a record, just because it didn't exist. I think that one was 312 miles, but that actually fairly quickly got broken by an Australian, Cam Wilson, Australian Ute driver. So after he broke it so easily, and then another guy here in America broke that one as well, I decided to go back to make another attempt at that, and ended up going 455 miles on an indoor track. So that was the third or fourth one that I did. And somewhere along the line, there's an event here in America called the 24 Hours of America, which is a 24-hour kart race designed for teams. And the promoter of that event invited me to come try it as a solo. So first one I did of those, I kind of just tried to stay out of the way, complete the 24 hours, stay out of the way, try not to cause any problems for anyone. And then the following year, they actually created a solo class. So myself and the other American guy who had broken my indoor record, he and I got to race head to head.
Wow.
And which was really cool because it was actually in the infield go-kart track at Daytona International Speedway.
Well,
so we got to race around with the big lights on Daytona and the infield kart track. And we ended up, after 24 hours, we were separated by, I think, 3.8 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Like that. So it didn't really solve anything as to who can go farther, because we ended up going the exact same distance.
And why do you do a 24-hour event? Is it a personal challenge of yourself, or are you raising money for charity, or is it just, a mind step for yourself?
It's all of the above, right? I mean, it is definitely a big personal challenge, and I really enjoy challenging myself and finding these things that really push the limits of what the human body is capable of. And then I do also use my racing, which is pretty much exclusively 24-hour events now. I use that as a way to raise funds and awareness for the Tourette Association of America. So raising awareness for Tourette syndrome. And usually what I'll do is each race I'll set up I'll set up a page for some donations, and they go directly to that charity. So yeah, we've tried to put a bit of a charity spin on it, which has definitely helped raise more so raising awareness. I think more than trying to raise money is just getting, making it known that people with Tourette syndrome can do just as much as anybody else can, and it doesn't really cause any major hindrances, that kind of thing, and hopefully inspire some people with Tourette's to continue after what it is that they want to do, despite any issues they may be having.
Oh, that's really nice. And I do feel like I need to ask the question, Trey. How do you go to the toilet? Do you have a toilet stop?
Yeah, so that has kind of evolved a little bit ever since the very beginning. So the very first one that we did, that was with a Rotax engine. So we had to refuel every hour. I think it was every 70 minutes. So I would hop out and run to the bathroom and then hop back in. But ever since that, we've actually moved to a on kart toilet system. So we would do something similar to what fighter pilots would use, and that's just an external catheter with like a bag that's strapped to your leg, and then drain it whenever the kart's being refueled, and then hop back in. So a little bit less sanitary, but nowhere close to just sitting there and you're in a pool of your own urine or anything like that. We keep it fairly tame.
And is that when you refuel yourself with nutrition or supplements or hydration when the kart's restock? Or how do you manage?
Yeah, a little bit. I use a drink solution in a Camelback that I'll clip to my rib vest. So I'll have a Camelback on me while I'm out on track, and that has a drink solution that's used for triathletes. So they'll use it throughout their races, which tend to be, for the higher level guys, 7-8 hours. And for the common, recreational triathlete could be anywhere from 11 to 14 hours, something like that. So it's been designed for that long-term fuel. So I'll use that in my drink pouch while I'm on track, and we'll switch it every few hours. And then every few hours when we are switching it, I may grab like a little bit of a tiny little goo gummy and try to chew a couple of those. But outside of that, that's the only nutrition that I'll have throughout the course of a race. So it works out pretty well. I usually tend to burn 8,000 to 9,000 calories throughout the course of a 24-hour race. And I can manage to take in somewhere between 6 and 7. So definitely at a bit of a calorie deficit, but still managing to get in a decent amount throughout the course of a race.
And then how do you mentally prepare for an event like that?
That's probably the best question, because it definitely, it's not a matter of training your body so much to withstand it. Obviously there is a large amount of that goes into it, but no matter how good of shape you're in, it is absolutely going to suck, and there's nothing you can do about that. So being mentally prepared for yourself to be in a lot of pain and for it, to be able to push through it and that kind of thing. I think that's the main thing is I understand that it's going to be fairly unpleasant, and I get myself mentally prepared for that.
Yeah. And can you give us some insight into what you do? Is it a matter of, doing some meditation, visualizations? Are you listening to audio music?
Yeah. So experience has definitely helped. I think I definitely was mentally more prepared and mentally tougher on the 7th one than I was on the 1st. Mm-hmm. And then I think overall, having a good mental framework going into it, and knowing that there are going to be things outside of your control. There are going to be things that happen that you don't expect, and just being adaptable throughout the course of a lot can happen in 24 hours. And I think part of it is knowing that your mind is going to trail off a little bit sometimes, and working on exercises to help bring that back. So whenever I'm in a training session or something like that, I don't necessarily try to stay hyper-focused throughout the course of the session, but I try to really recognize when my mind is wandering, and then what am I going to do to bring it back to the focus that it needs to have, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I wish I had like a silver bullet secret for how to mentally prepare, but I think really it's just understanding that it's going to be really difficult, and knowing that a lot of things can and will happen, and just being able to be adaptable and work through them.
And through your experience of training some high-profile motorsport competitors, how important do you think mental training is, or mental preparation?
I think it's absolutely crucial, and we say mental, and what I think we're both talking about is psychological. Really, is there psychological approach and things like that? Because we also do a lot of mental training, which actually refers to cognitive function and, things like reaction time and peripheral vision and, recognition of patterns and things like that to really keep their mental faculties sharp throughout the course of a race. But when it comes to psychological training, there are certain elements of it that we'll address throughout the course of training that would improve their training. But when it comes to their psychological approach to a race weekend or something like that, I'll sort of steer them towards somebody whose teachings I've followed. And it's convenient because he's here near Charlotte area, but I'll turn them towards Performance Prime service. And Dr. Jacques Dallaire, he's written the book Performance Thinking, which that's one of the methods I use to mentally prepare. Is he has you kind of go through and build a model essentially for how to get yourself into your A game, and it's been really helpful for me. And I'll direct people towards him if I feel like they need help with that. So I definitely have some drivers who I can notice throughout the course of like a training session if they get frustrated when they don't do something right, or especially with the reaction time work that we do. You can see them kind of bang the table real quick or something if they mess something up, and then at the same time I can see the certain people who are able to shake off a mistake and get right back into it, and they don't even think about it, kind of thing. So I look out for stuff like that, and if I feel like one of my drivers could use a little bit of extra help with psychological preparation, then I'll steer them in that direction.
Fantastic. Wasn't it a great service that you have available just there in that little hub of yours?
It is definitely helpful. And we've had a few drivers utilize Dr. Jacques' services, and he is one of the best in that business.
Mm-hmm. And Trey, what are your thoughts on the difference between a personal trainer and a coach? And what do you call yourself?
I guess I would refer to myself as a coach. I'll tell people that I'm a trainer fairly frequently just because I think that resonates with them a little bit more. If I say that I'm a coach, they kind of tend to think of somebody with a whistle and a clipboard standing by at the side of a field coaching football or baseball or something like that. So, but they don't really think of a strength coach. They would think of a different kind of coach. So I'll use trainer a lot, but I think the main difference is being able to, a trainer is going to give you what you need to get better at what it is you're trying to get better at in terms of the workouts, and you should do this many times and that kind of thing. And they may be great at properly programming that and that kind of stuff. But I think when it comes to coaching, there's definitely an element of, tapping into each individual's motivation and figuring out what it is that really drives them and trying to draw that out during a training session and over the course of a whole season. And I think that's where the term coach really starts to fit more. And I definitely do try to tap into that. And it's something I didn't necessarily think was needed at first. My whole approach at the very beginning of this journey was, I've got the ingredients. It's up to you to kind of bring the motivation to cook it. And I've definitely shifted much more to the other side of that. And they obviously want most of my clients, they want to prepare specifically for racing. So we do that. And a lot of times, though, we do have to kind of see how it is that they're feeling that day and what can I do to make that training session more effective for them? What kind of things do I need to do on a personal level to make that training session more effective? And that's where you kind of cross over from trainer to coach, I feel like.
Yeah, so we very much advertise that we do coaching packages because it's more of a holistic approach to that training. So yes, we can do training programs, but we like to look at the person in a whole to coach them to become a better driver.
Exactly, and I think that's where it really does differentiate.
Yeah, and so you obviously sound very passionate about your role, Trey. What do you love most about being a motorsport coach?
Oh man. One, motorsports. I mean, I love all things motorsports, and fitness became a really big passion of mine as I went through university. So being able to put those two together on a daily basis is really rewarding, and I really do love it. And then to go with that, I think really the biggest part is the problem solving aspect of it, and that's probably the engineer that's still inside me. And, just I love it when a driver comes to me and says, man, this part of my body was really sore after this race, but it isn't usually after other races or something like that. And then I get to sit down and analyze, okay, why might that have been the case? What corner was it on that track, or what characteristic of that track was it that was creating that problem for that specific driver? And how can we make sure that doesn't happen in the future? And I really,
They're breaking down the biomechanics of it all.
Yes. And I love the problem solving aspect of it. So, but outside of that, I love racing and I love fitness. So it really is hard to go wrong.
And what do you feel the difference between training a motorsport athlete versus an everyday person? What kind of training differences are there?
Well, for one, I feel like the motivation just coming in is already immediately a lot higher. I mean, racing drivers are some of the most competitive people you will ever meet on the face of this earth. And they all want to be better than everybody else that they're up against. So a lot of times, if you're training a general population client, that kind of motivation isn't necessarily there. Their motivations are very different. Their motivations are to lose a few pounds so that, their husband or wife finds them more attractive, or so that they can look better for their high school reunion coming up. Or, there's like, look, I'm really sluggish all day and I just want to be in a healthier state or something like that. Whereas with drivers, it is competition. That is their number one motivation, and they all want to be better than the next guy or girl. So I think that's where that coach aspect of it comes back in, and it is really a matter of reading their motivations and figuring out the best way to get the most out of them as a result.
And what is the first thing that you recommend for a motorsport athlete to focus on when starting their fitness journeys?
That actually, I think is very similar to what a general population client would be. And that is really emphasizing the concept of consistency and commitment to the program. Occasionally I'll get a driver who will kind of go ghost on me for a little bit, and then he's got a big race coming up. So like the 2 weeks before the race, he wants to fit in like 8 training sessions. And, I try to make sure when everybody comes through my door, I say, look, this isn't a, train for this event, then train for this event, then train for this event kind of thing. This is a holistic, like you like to say, holistic approach to your fitness and your performance. And it's year round, and we need to go through specific training periods and things like that so that you can get the most out of this program. Otherwise, you're just, pardon my French, you're just pissing in the wind. So
it's great to hear that you have the same challenges over there as we have here.
Yes, we do. And sometimes even with the drivers as well, like I said, their motivation is all really high, but sometimes they don't quite grasp that concept of needing to be consistent and the type of commitment it takes to that program to really draw the best out of themselves. So yeah, I definitely do that. And then there are a few things also that I try to emphasize in terms of what their fitness can do for them inside the race car. When it comes to using your physical fitness to prevent mental fatigue, and then also the injury prevention aspects of it, and the injury risk reduction, and speeding recovery if you do get injured, that kind of thing. And I think some of those kind of hit home a little bit more with them. Most everybody's dealt with some sort of injury from an accident or something like that. So sometimes that's an easier way to get them a little more committed than to say, hey, you need to be committed.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same with the general pop, because generally they won't come and see a trainer unless something severe has
Unless there's an issue, yeah.
like unless they've had the heart attack, or unless they've had this thing before, or unless that they've seen that embarrassing photo. So it's normally the aftermath.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I think that sometimes that motivation can be very similar. But and then with drivers, I definitely stress that everything that we're going to do is very comprehensive. We're not here just to get your heart rate up and work only muscles that are going to be used in a race car. Well, one, that's kind of a myth, because you use all of your muscles when you're in a race car. And then we also do a lot of training when it comes to, like I said, the cognitive function stuff, reaction time, and peripheral vision and things like that. So I make sure that they understand that it's a very comprehensive approach. We include breathing. We do a lot of breathing work as part of our program as well. So it's more than just running a mile and then lifting some weights kind of thing.
And how many sessions per week do you recommend an athlete to start training? Is it like any other sport? Are they required to train 6 days a week, 10 times a day, like 10 times a week?
It would be great. Yeah, it would be great if they could train 6 times a week.
But like a lot of the swimmers train morning, they might do laps, the afternoon they do weights, runners.
Yeah. So and I'll usually work with most of my guys and girls 2 or 3 times a week. And then they'll do some cycling and things like that outside of our training sessions. So they're for the most part, most of them are doing usually 5 sessions. I would say like 5 training sessions a week, and 2 or 3 of them would be with me.
And
so they're
of all various time lengths.
Most of our sessions are around an hour. Yeah, most of our sessions are around an hour, and then we'll prescribe some things for them to do on their own with cycling or running or something like that. That may be more or less time, depending on what it is they're doing and what time of the year it is and what it is they need to be focusing on during that particular training cycle and that sort of thing.
So apart from one-on-one training, what other services do you offer there?
We do have online training, and right now I keep that kind of restricted to people who are available to come to me at least once for an evaluation session. I'm working on I'll be working over the course of this year on putting together sort of a self-assessment kind of program so that we can send that to people and they can assess themselves, kind of walk them through that whole process, and they can assess themselves and send the results back to me. But for right now, we keep that to people who can come in and go through a 2 or 3 hour assessment with me in person. And then I can give online, give them their program over email and stuff like that. And we'll update it monthly and that sort of thing. So I've got a few different options in terms of how comprehensive they want to get with that, from here's 3 workouts for you to do each week, kind of rinse and repeat for a month, all the way up to they send me their schedule of everything, school schedule, race schedule, whatever it is. And I plan out every single day for them throughout the course of the month. So we do that. And then I also offer trackside support if there's anybody who needs that kind of thing, which that generally gets, that's generally limited to like the 24-hour and 12-hour races, stuff like that. That's not really something we do much on like a regular weekend basis.
And what do you do at those events?
So it'll depend on who I'm working with. Right now, actually, for the Rolex 24 we have coming up next month, I'll be next weekend. I'll be down there working with the Porsche GTLM pit crew and just doing things to keep them loose and alert throughout the course of the race. Obviously, they get very tired as well over the night, but they still have to perform close to 40 pit stops throughout the course of the race, and there is no replacement crew. So they're the ones getting everything ready and doing the pit stops every 50 minutes or so. So we'll work on things like, making sure their mobility is staying good throughout the course of the event, and then also keeping their hand-eye coordination in check, that kind of thing. Obviously they've got to, the fueler's got to hit a certain spot, every single time, and same with the tire changers and things like that. So, and then if anything's bothering them throughout the course of the event, then we'll, give them a little bit of, maybe do some foam rolling or something like that if they have anything that's bothering them.
And do you train many pit crew members?
Just the Porsche GTLM team. Yeah. So they're based pretty close by to Charlotte, just down the road. So I work with them on sort of a remote basis. I'll see them once a month, but then I'll send them their program over a sports coaching app. So that's been a really good relationship. We started it at the beginning of 2018, and it went fairly well throughout the course of 2018. So we expanded it a little bit for this year to provide a little bit more for them, and it's been going really well. So we'll see how they all do over the course of the 24 hours next weekend.
Yeah, and in 2019, Motivate is expanding to pit crew services as well. So we're going to be called.
Oh, fantastic!
They're going to be called Motivate Me.
Yeah, I think there could be a good opportunity there for us to exchange some ideas and see how we're treating these athletes, because they are athletes, right?
They are, for sure, and I think they get forgotten about in the scheme of things.
Absolutely. And I know there are a lot of teams where it's just the mechanics and they're the ones who go over the wall. So in NASCAR, we have, a lot of NASCAR teams, they have strength and conditioning coaches for the pit crew. I mean, that's, the pit crew they're not mechanics. They're American footballers who did not go pro, and they go and they change tires and they refuel NASCAR cars, as their job. So in NASCAR, it's a completely different story, but for the most part in sports cars and IndyCar and stuff like that, it's the mechanics who are going over the wall. So we have to kind of try to start treating them like the athletes that they need to be as well.
Yeah, and I think for them it's around about getting that mental mind shift as well, because they just think that, no, my job is X, where there's actually a physical component towards it.
Yeah, and I think it's really good though, because I think it does actually add a lot more fun for them as well. So they're wrenching in the car and they're digging around in the car for hours upon hours on a race weekend, and then they get to go have some fun jumping over the wall and and trying to do something as quickly as possible. So, that's something that I've always tried to instill in the guys that I work with, is like, hey, this is your guys' time to have fun, and go do that, go have fun. And it takes their mind off of the pressure of the moment and that kind of stuff. And I think that they definitely perform better when they're enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody does, don't we? If we enjoy,
absolutely. I know I do.
That's right.
I know I do.
Now, Trey, one of the big things here we're really big about is branding. You recently went through a brand change yourself. So you were Trey Shannon Fitness, and now you're Podium Performance Fitness.
Yeah, so that was definitely strategic. When I started doing this, when I moved down to the area, I really wanted something that got my personal name known very well. And I wanted it to be associated with Trey Shannon. I wanted the fitness and my name to be associated together so that people knew who that was doing that. And then as I began to build that recognition a little bit and started having a really solid client base, and I saw the word of mouth start to work a little bit better. And when I had people who were coming to me as opposed to me reaching out to them to get them to come in to train, that was when I decided I wanted to go ahead and go forward with the rebranding process. So when it came to choosing a name for it, the biggest thing there was I really wanted to, it was great having my name attached to it, but I wanted something that drew a better connection between fitness and racing. And that was the main thing I was trying to do with Podium Performance Fitness, was draw that connection and draw it in a way that it speaks to its relevance. So that's why the performance aspect of it is in there.
Yeah, I love the new logo. Did it take you a long time to design, or did you get some input?
No, I got that done. So I work with my helmet painter. He does all of my design work for my business as well. So yeah, check him out. Octane Visual with a K. Octane with a K visual. It's TJ Coyen up in Wisconsin, and he does fantastic work. He's a one-man show, and he paints a lot of helmets every year, and he does some, logo design work and things like that as well. And he's just fantastic. I've been working with him for 7 years now, and it's been great.
Yeah, it's a fantastic.
So, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I told him what I was looking for, and it took one shot.
Oh, love it.
He sent it to me, and I said, man, I don't want to make any changes at all. That looks amazing.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, couldn't be happier.
So you mentioned about the possibility of doing the online training coming forward in 2019. What other grand plans do you have?
Mainly just trying to keep expanding, and always constantly evolving our program to what it needs to be and what these drivers need out of it. I think when it comes to neurocognitive training and vision training and things like that, we're starting to make much bigger advances there than we have before. So I think that there's been a lot of evolution in our program when it comes to that over the last couple of years, and I think we're going to see a lot more of it in 2019 as well. Strength and conditioning has kind of been strength and conditioning for a while now, and a lot of that is fairly proven. It's tested, it's proven, and we know it works there. But we're learning so much more about how the brain and body work together, and how certain things have effects on the nervous system and hormone levels and things like that. And I think that as we learn more and more there, I'm definitely trying to make sure I keep up and learn as much as I possibly can, so that I can manipulate those things within my drivers as best I can to improve their performance. So a lot of learning in 2019. I think that that kind of goes without saying each year, but
that's right.
But yeah, just doing everything I can to improve and grow our program.
Yeah, fantastic. And have you been to Australia before?
I have not. It is still on the list. We've gotten to do a little bit of traveling, but yeah, Australia is definitely on the list of places I need to get to.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic to have you come out. Maybe we could do a workshop or something together.
Oh, that would be super. Yeah, I would love to do something like that. That'd be great.
Well, Trey, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I've been listening to it for a while, so I was really excited when you reached out.
Oh, thanks. As you know then, I always like to finish off the podcast with, what is your favorite racetrack?
Yeah, so I actually have a clarification question about that.
Yes.
Are you looking for a track that I've driven, or my favorite track just in general?
Viewing, either or both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I like for spectators, obviously, because we like to, from a racing perspective, and yes, of course, as a driver. So
I mean, there's so many really good tracks around the world, and I think for me, the one that has the biggest emotional connection that I really love, like it's the one race I have to sit down and watch every year, and that's Long Beach. Mm-hmm. So I grew up going to the Long Beach Grand Prix, and through all of its different iterations, they've obviously changed the course configuration several times because it is on city streets, but Long Beach is where it all started for me. So I have to put that one down as my favorite.
Favorite viewing or driving?
I've never driven it, but definitely viewing. Yeah. When it comes to driving, unfortunately, I have quite a love-hate relationship with a lot of the tracks that I've driven because I've ended up spending 24 hours at a time on them. So I usually start out loving the track and then hating it by the end of it. But yeah, with tracks that I've driven, VIR, I didn't have to drive that one for 24 hours. So I think that is an absolute dream to drive. There's so much elevation change. It's a very classic European style course, and it's absolutely fantastic. That's Virginia International Raceway.
Fantastic.
That one's really cool.
I do remember I have two more questions.
Go.
Do you have a 24-hour race coming up in 2019?
I do not. As of right now, I don't have anything planned. So yeah, the last one that I did, the one I did last year, that really took a lot out of me. So that one kind of was the culmination of what we've been working up to with 24-hour races. And I traveled over to England, and I did the Daytona 24-hour at Milton Keynes over there. And the plan for that one was to do a flat sprint, no brakes for 24 hours. So obviously we had to get out of the kart for fueling, and then they require 4 mandatory 5-minute stops. But outside of that, I was at a full sprint the entire 24 hours. So I think we calculated that I spent 27 minutes outside of the kart. Mm-hmm. So after doing that one, I think I may take a break for this year, because that one was definitely draining, and it was kind of that was where I wanted to get to with doing these. So yeah, so I've kind of achieved the ultimate goal when it comes to that one. So I think now there's very few things that would get me back into a 24-hour race. So if one of those comes up, maybe, but as of right now, nothing planned.
Fantastic. Well, I understand why not. And the other thing I heard about was that you had a rowing competition.
Yeah, yes.
I thought we could open it up for an international competition and bring it to the Aussie drivers.
I'm so happy that's made it to Australia. So yeah, the story behind that one is actually kind of funny. So I have 2 clients that are really good friends. They both race in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series. So they'll be racing in the Rolex 24 this coming weekend. So Colin Brown, who races in the prototype class, and then John Edwards, who races in the GTLM class. He drives for the BMW. They usually train at Colin's house. He's got a gym set up in his garage there, which is actually really nice. And John kind of trains with him probably about half the time. So I came over one day for their training session, and I show up and they're not in the garage ready to go. So I go out back, and both of them are in the pool. So I decided I was going to make them pay for it. And they ended up doing a 10,000 meter relay row that day as part of their workout. So each one would row for 500 meters and they would then switch off. So each one does 10 500 meter stints on the rower. Uh-huh. And about halfway through, they asked, "Hey, what's the fastest time on this?" Because obviously they're always so competitive, right? Everybody wants to beat everybody else. And I told them, "Well, I don't have anybody who's done it yet." So they were a little angry that was the case. They wanted something to shoot for. So they ended up at that point just kind of going as fast as they could. And then as soon as they were done, they said, "Okay, now you and Tom can do it." And Tom being Tom Long, who also races in the WeatherTech series. He raced for the Mazda prototype program a couple years ago, and now he's doing other things. So they challenged Tom and me to do the row challenge. So a week later, we gave it a shot and came up about 30 seconds short on their time. But that was I would like to be totally clear, that was completely down to me. I was definitely the weak link. The weak link in that one. Tom was definitely up to the challenge, and I came up just a little bit short. And it was very, very disheartening to know that it actually calculated out to be 1.8 seconds per 500 meter stint. That was all we had to do to go faster than them. But yeah, so if anybody over there wants to give it a go, yeah, we do. I think the fast time to beat was 37 minutes and 14 seconds. Uh-huh. Or 38 minutes and 14 seconds, somewhere in there. It's on my Instagram if you guys want to take a look.
I will put it up there.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to give it a go, then let us know what you got.
Yeah, and then post it up onto Podium Performance.
Yeah, post it on your Instagram or something and tag Podium Performance Fitness. We'll get it going. We can have an international rowing competition.
Why not? We'll see who's the fittest, the Aussies versus
there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, again, thank you very much for your time today, Trey. I'll let you get back to work. Oh no, it's bedtime, isn't it? No,
it's dinner time. Yeah, it's getting to about dinner time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Belinda. It's been a great time.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe, and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out and you'll go into a monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate T. Until next time, take care.